What religion are you? I looked at my questionnaire, took a deep breath to get some more patience, and said, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. My questionnaire was brief and to the point. Never heard of it. Is that a real religion? In my less gracious moments, I actually want to say, no, I just made it up. Would you like to start a new religion with me? And of course, that answer is partly due to a frustration. And the frustration is twofold. One is, most people in our country have never heard of it. And the second thing is, I actually don't like the name. I think it's long, it's clumsy, and it's confusing to most people who hear it. And I've noticed it's around the second syllable of Universalist that people stop even pretending to be interested. And a friend of mine was checking into hospital, and the nurse asked her, what was her religious affiliation? She said, oh, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. And the nurse just looked at her blankly and said, I'll just put down other. And I want us not to accept that. I want to make them put the name down, Unitarian Universalist. Not just Unitarian, Unitarian Universalist. Because goodness knows, we have to put up with the barrage of cryptic names from the medical establishment. So we can think of this as revenge on the medical establishment. You know, often to do with our own body. You know, I've got a what inside of me? You know? And of course, I think revenge is a poor motivation for people of faith. So let's think of it as Unitarian Universalist evangelism. Woo, I said a bad word in a Unitarian Universalist church. And I think we need to start thinking about Unitarian Universalism. And I don't mean the idea of converting other people to our beliefs. But evangelism and standing up for what we really believe in a positive sense. Not defining ourselves by what we're not. We're not this, we're not that, we're not the other. But what we are. Because we really do have a proud religion and our name stands for that. And while we don't always want to be the other religion, there are times in our history where we've been very proud to be the other religion. The Reverend Laurel Hallman, who was the minister at First Unitarian Church of Dallas for many years, tells the story that in the 1950s, the Unitarian Church of Dallas was listed under other in the phone book. Under churches, the other categories for churches were white and coloured. So we were very proud to be the other church because we were inclusive of all, regardless of colour of the skin. So there's cases where we have been proud to be the other church, but I'm not for a moment suggesting we change our name to the Church of Otherness. One of the few names is probably even more confusing and more weird than Unitarian Universalist. But I think a name is important because our Unitarian Universalist ancestors, that name results from what our ancestors believed. Because some religions get named after their founders, like Buddhism or the Lutherans, and other churches get named after their institutional organization, like the Episcopal and the Presbyterians. We are named after religious belief that our ancestors held. So I think our name's got some importance to us. And our Unitarian ancestors were actually part of the liberal wing of the Congregationalists in the early 19th century. And there was some disagreement with the Congregationalists because the liberal Congregationalists, they really focused more on the life of Jesus rather than the death. They really believed they were a religion of Jesus, not a religion about Jesus. They were about his teachings, not theories about why he died. And so that was very much at the forefront of the disagreement there. But there's actually a bigger disagreement, I think, and it was how much religious beliefs were allowed within one religious organization. I think the more liberal side and our Unitarian ancestors believed and welcomed a diversity of religious beliefs within the one organization, whereas the more orthodox felt that there should be a limit of it, there should be tests of beliefs. And so you can see right here at the foundation of a Unitarian movement, this sense of a diversity of beliefs was a good thing. And that's something that's still very important to us today. On the Universalist side of a tradition, we're also named after a religious belief, the idea of universal salvation. And the idea there was that at the end of the 18th century, the predominant Christian view was that most people were corrupt and were going to hell, and only through the death of Jesus would a few elect be saved and go to heaven. And our Universalist ancestors rejected that idea. He said that all people would be saved eventually. All people were destined to go to heaven. Now, the ideas of heaven and hell, most Unitarian Universalists have rejected that, at least for about 150 years ago, but that was the dominant Christian thinking at the time. Any ideas of literal heaven and hell we've rejected. But the important part of that Universalist insight was the common human destiny. All human beings had a common destiny. And there's a radical egalitarianism, there's a radical equality about that idea that I think is very important. And you look at our first principle, the inherent worth of dignity of every person. There's a strong, radical egalitarianism in that statement, which I think has its roots in a Universalist tradition. You can see how both sides of our tradition, the names, had important beliefs that have carried down over 200 years to the movement we have today. I think it's important that we think about our name and what brings us together. Those beliefs were central in bringing Unitarians together and Universalists together. But what brings us together today in the 21st century? The Jewish thinker Martin Buber says the real essence of community is to be found in the fact it has a center. The real beginning of a community is when its members have a common relation to the center, overriding all other relations. The circle is described by the radii, not the points in the circumference. Those are the words of Martin Buber. I think that's really important. We think of each of us here, we can think of each of us here as points in the circumference. But what links us? Is it the relationship to each other, or is it the relationship that we have to a common center? I think it's really important for us to have a clear idea of what that common center is for Unitarian Universalists. And I think it's important that we realize we are a religion of different beliefs, but common values. Because we often hear the question, what do you believe? Or do you believe in God? And I don't think either of those are particularly meaningful questions. I mean, the do you believe in God seems fundamental to a religion, but can you even give a meaningful answer to that? If you say no, does that mean you have no sense of wonder and amazement of the world? Does that mean you have no sense of what's a miracle? Does that mean you have no sense of what's sacred and what's deeply meaningful to you? I don't think so. I think you can have all of those things without having any clear belief in God. And then on the other side, if you answer, yes, I believe in God, do you mean a theistic Christian God? Do you mean the Hindu Brahmin? Do you mean the sense of oneness that we feel connected with the world and with those around us? Do we see the divine spark in every person, which is a strong belief within the Unitarian movement? What do we mean when we say yes to that? So I think questions about beliefs are not that meaningful. I think we are a religion, and this confuses many, and probably within our movement, but certainly outside our movement, that we have differing beliefs but shared values. So what are those values? I think we really believe that, like the Unitarian ancestors, that a diversity of beliefs is healthy. We come to community with different beliefs, with different backgrounds, different classes, race, sexual orientations, and we come together, and through the differences that we bring with us, we get clearer idea of what's meaningful to us and what ideals we wish to live by. We often hear that you can believe anything you want within Unitarian Universalism, and I do not believe that to be true. We are an ethically based religion. We believe in equality of opportunity to be good. We believe that bigotry to be bad. We believe discrimination of any kind to be bad. We believe inclusiveness to be good. We believe in a progressive, open to changing our mind, and we believe dogma to be bad. So when we say we can believe anything we want, we have bounds in that. You can come here and not believe in those things. But you're not a Unitarian Universalist. Inclusiveness, equality, and the progressive thinking, I think is what marks us as Unitarian Universalists. So we cannot believe anything we want. And we often say that we come to religious community to be around like-minded people. And my friend and colleague Aaron White likes to remind us, we like to come around like-minded people to find diversity. You see the problem with that. Because really, what clarifies us and where we find deeper meaning in our life is the encounter with difference. Because similarity leads to conformity, and I think it's limited spiritual growth can occur. We seek diversity for spiritual growth. And it's often asked, where do Unitarian Universalists fit in the scope and spectrum of world religions? I have seen the answer to that in black and white. I was at the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade about 10, 12 years ago, and there's a big program, it's quite a big event. I was looking through the program, there's a list of religions with a view on homosexuality, and we were listed there, very positively, of course. And we were right there between Scientology and voodoo. So that's where we fit in the scope of world religions, between Scientology and voodoo. And I have to say, I found it very funny too when I first saw that. And then I thought about it, and I actually really liked that idea. Because you've got Scientology, you've got this 20th century counseling-based religion, and then you've got voodoo, and let's forget about voodoo dolls. That's an insignificant part of the religion. It's actually a West African indigenous religion mixed with Catholicism. How's bad that for diversity of religion? You could span that. So I think, I like that idea. I do worry about explaining to my family that my religious views lie between Scientology and voodoo. So you can work on that one. I think it's really important that we are a wide religion of beliefs. But saying that, many world religions have this idea of a relationship, some personal relationship with God. And our Christian, our Christian heritage from which we come from had this idea of a personal relationship with God through Jesus. And many, not all, we still have many Unitarian Universalists who identify as Christian, but many of us have moved away from that as solely a path to the divine, this relationship through Jesus. But what happened is we've removed this transcendental, important, fundamental relationship. And have we replaced it with anything? I think that's a struggle that many Unitarian Universalists have had in finding what do we share together. Because as Martin Buber was saying, if we don't have this sense of a common centre, we're just a bunch of individuals that come and share the same space on a Sunday morning. And that does not make a religious community. I think many people come to Unitarian Universalism for other religions. We come to try and make sense of what's happening in the world. We are concerned about this excessive individualism in our society. We're concerned about the overemphasis on material goods. We're concerned about the pervasive injustice in the world. I think we come here to community to seek greater connection with other people. I think we come here to find a meaning in our lives beyond materialism. And we come here to work for greater justice, to do justice as is written in that law. And I think what's at the core of Unitarian Universalism today in the 21st century is we desire to be in right relationship. We desire to be in right relationship with ourselves. We desire to be in right relationships with those around us. We desire to be in right relationship with our planet and all life on it. We desire to live closer to our highest ideals. And I think we consciously and sometimes instinctively raise our human relationships to ultimate meaning in our life, often replacing the personal relationship with God. I think many of us see a transforming power in our human relationships with each other, within this religious community and outside of it. I think this desire for healthier relationships is at the core of Unitarian Universalism today. And I think we desire to live to our highest ideals while acknowledging the pain many of us carry, the failings many of us carry, and the inadequacies that always arise. We seek comfort, affirmation, and challenge from our religion. We will say Unitarian Universalists prefer good questions to answers. And I think there's a truth to that. I think we also want answers, but we do not want simple answers that do not resonate with our reason and experience. The Unitarian side of our tradition really saw that the divine was best accessed through our human intuition and interpreting our own personal experience. We do not see the divine only accessed through ancient revelation and scripture. We believe reason and experience and our own individual searches can bring us to deeper meaning in our life. And I think this is what D.H. Lawrence was talking about in the reading that Michael gave earlier, about this ongoing gradual revelation. D.H. Lawrence said, "It appears to me one gradually formulates one's religion, be it what it may. A person has no religion that has not painfully and slowly gathered one together, adding to it, shaping it. And one's religion is never complete and final, it seems, but must always be undergoing modification." Those are the words of D.H. Lawrence. And I think this captures for me the essence of spiritual growth for Unitarian Universalists. Not an adherence to a dogma or a confession of faith, but a gradual ongoing process of awakening to the variety and depth of meaning in our life. And I think our relationships with others helps us do that, because it helps us transcend our individualism that is so common in our society today. And it confronts us with a diversity of values and beliefs, which helps hold us accountable to our own ideals and values. It's often said that a loving argument is a sure sign of the Spirit moving amongst us. Some of us may feel we have plenty of Spirit within our religious community, but I remind you it's a loving argument. There's a difference. And I'll leave the topic of what a loving argument is to another sermon. I copped out on that one. But our Christian heritage also places a huge emphasis on kind, loving, and compassionate relationships. And Jesus said to love one's enemies, not just love one's neighbors, but to love one's enemies. And many scholars see that as one of the most unique and original of Jesus' teaching, to love one's enemies. And this was at the heart of our Universalist tradition, with the radical egalitarianism, the radical equality, the love of all humanity, the common human destiny of all humanity. Love one's enemy means that we all have a common destiny. And the Universalists really embraced that. And they embraced it by placing the love of humanity at the center of their religion. And this is not an individualistic religion that places humanity at the center. It's a love of humanity at the center. The love of all humanity. And that's a profound difference from an individualistic religion. And I said earlier that the Universalists rejected the notion of hell. It's often said that the Universalists loved the hell out of this world. Right? So whenever anyone asks you what you believe, you say you love the hell out of this world. And in loving this world brings us to an area I think we've struggled with as a religious movement. I think one of the biggest cultural changes in our world and our worldview over the last 40 years have been around environmental issues. And many religions, including Unitarian Universalism, has been very, very slow in addressing environmental concerns. And we're working on that. We've now got the Unitarian Universalist Ministry for the Earth. We also have the seventh principle, which is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are part. With much of the individualistic focus on our liberal religion, we have often seen us individuals as separate from the world. I think now we're seeing that we need to have a relationship of interdependence, because we are not independent from the world. We are definitely interdependent. I think all our religious communities need to put care for the planet and all life on it at the center of our mission, especially concerning climate change. And by putting the planet and all life on it, including human life, at the center of it, we work towards that with our hearts, with our minds, living our highest ideals and caring for all. We do, as Unitarian Universalists, seek honest, new answers to life's most profound questions and seek to find deeper meaning in them. And I think it's through our relationships we get greater understanding of our values and our ideals, particularly those diversity of relationships and values. We should be proud and not embarrassed about our religion. We should be evangelical. I'm fed up with Unitarian Universalists being the best kept secret in town. We have religion when we grow in our understanding of ourselves and seek to live our highest ideals. We have religion when we seek justice and care for others in a relationship of love, compassion, and care. We have religion when we recognize our planet and all life on it as meriting our care and respect. We have religion when we do all we can to follow a life larger than ourselves and live that life to the best of our values. Let us be proud of our religious tradition. Let us even be proud of our name, Unitarian Universalism, and what it stands for. And invite us all to take our religious values out into the world and transform our communities. Let us all be living examples of Unitarian Universalist values in action.